Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started with our transfer student panel. We're glad you're able to be here with us in a virtual capacity. My name is Megan DeJoya. I'm the coordinator of family programs and services here in the new student programs office. What that means is I primarily prepare materials for your family members if they're interested in connecting with us and learning more about how to prepare you and how to prepare themselves for your journey with Stony Brook University, but I also work to help prepare the students through events such as this. I'm going to have Val introduce herself next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Val. I use she, her pronouns. I'm one of the peer assistant leaders working with new student programs. So us peer assistant leaders get assigned to a bunch of students as they enter their first semester at Stony Brook, and we're with them as support for the whole, for their first whole year semester at Stony Brook. I'm a psych major. I'm entering my last semester of my senior year, so I'm very excited. I'm currently on campus, actually beyond this campus background, and I'm involved in a lot. I do a lot, and it feels great.
Go ahead, Victoria.
Okay, hi, my name is Victoria. I go by she, her pronouns as well. I'm also a peer assistant leader. I'm also going into my final semester, but I'm graduating early. I'm actually my junior year. I'm not currently on campus. My background is our stadium, the football stadium. But yeah, I will be on campus next week though.
All right, thank you. So the purpose of today's session is really to answer any questions that you all have. I do have some of my own questions to ask of our wonderful PAL friends, but if at any point you have questions, big or small, you can go ahead and submit those in the Q&A feature, and we'll do our best to answer as much as we can live. If a question is too specific, we might try to answer it in the chat, but if we can answer it live, we're going to try to get everyone as much information as possible. That's really our goal here. So at any point, you have a follow-up question to any of the things that are said, you want to ask something on your own, you're just curious, just want some advice, feel free to drop that question in the Q&A button. So we'll go ahead and get started. Let's see. I want to get involved, but I'm not sure how much I should do outside of my classes. Do you have any advice?
Do you want to talk first, Victoria, or should I? Yeah, we didn't plan in advance. So what is it? You want to get involved, but you want to make sure you still have time for classes? Yeah, so of course I'm going to recommend getting involved at campus, but there's no need to go all in at once. Maybe kind of just like shop around. If you hear about any orgs having like general body meetings, maybe you could check it out. If it's something that's just social, maybe that's not much of a time commitment. And kind of just like, wait it out the first few weeks, see what your obligations are looking like. You could look at all of our registered orgs on SB Engage. That's a site where we list every club on campus and also the events they're hosting. So you could kind of see what we have to offer. We also have a virtual involvement fair happening the first week of the semester. So you could ask executive board members questions, and don't be afraid to take a step back, I think, if you're feeling overwhelmed because you're not like under any obligation. So that's my piece.
Yeah, I agree with Val with like shopping around for all the clubs and organizations. When you first like join Stony Brook, one thing I really like about all the clubs we have here is for most of the clubs, you're not expected to go every single week or attend every single meeting to be part of that club. You can go to clubs and events as you want to. And another thing is they recommend that for academics, for every credit you take, it's around 2 to 3 hours of studying outside of your class time. So if you have it, like you're taking 15 credits and you're having that 2 to 3 hours per credit already scheduled aside to study in your schedule and you still have free time, like then you'll know you have enough time for extra clubs and activities.
Thank you. Just working on answering a question in the chat. One of the things that I would say that kind of stood out to me, I was a transfer student. I'm currently a full-time staff member at Stony Brook. I was a transfer student. I transferred from Nassau Community College to Oneonta several years ago. Won't get into that. But one of the things that I always remembered is that I wished I had gotten involved sooner. So when I had got to Oneonta, I kind of took some time to get a little more comfortable And then by the time I got involved, it was like my foot was already in the senior year, and I was like, what, I'm not ready to go. I'm loving this. I want to do more of this. So I definitely recommend kind of getting started somewhere and kind of seeing how it goes. And I think it could be enriching in different ways to kind of have that experience outside of the classroom as well as in the classroom while you're here. It's a good way to kind of de-stress as well and interact and socialize and kind of learn and grow and explore, even if it's just fun things like hobbies, or if it's a professional association. There's a lot of different ways to kind of balance it out. If you know that you've got a hard semester coming up, maybe, balancing it out a little bit differently compared to an easier semester. All right. What is one resource you wish you had learned about sooner at Stony Brook?
I don't know about like sooner, but I wish I had known this resource before I scheduled for classes, like Class C evals. Because after scheduling for classes and then I found out about it, but it was already past the add drop swap period. But Class C evals, we talk about them during the C-Wolf Connections. We haven't attended yours already, but they are kind of like a Rate My Professor for Stony Brook, but there's still a next section where it's like opinion based, but all the scores you see there, it's not self-reported. Those are automatically get pushed up. And the people putting their opinions on that class section, like they're saying like, oh, I hated this class, or I love this class, or I love this professor. Those have to be students who took that class in that semester. So if like you're going to see how's this class run online, is it still like, you think, can you still learn well in this class online section as compared to like an in-person section? If you look on class evals at the previous semesters which were taught online, you can be like, okay, people reviewed it well. And those people have definitely taken that class, and it's not like random people who made an account and just like commenting on it.
I think I wish I had utilized office hours a little sooner. Not that I've ever been significantly falling behind in classes, but I took human anatomy last spring, so it was anthropology 300, and it was hard because there are so many bones and so many muscles in the body, and I wasn't failing by any means, but it was also online, so there was that added disconnect. And it was at 8 a.m, so I'm not always like at my most awake at that time. So I just took advantage of my professor's office hours. I had Dr. Christopher Percival. He was really nice, and he was always ready and happy to re-explain everything, and just hearing it again made more sense. So even though I wasn't failing, I just kind of thought, wow, maybe if I just like went to office hours like a little more often, it'd just be nice to get that refresher and also just make that connection, because it was a large Zoom class, and it's 8 a.m, no cameras on. So it just feels good to like get my face out there, especially like in an academic setting, because I'm very involved with student life, but it's nice to have some professors know who I am too.
Thank you both. I just want to add in that there are tons of resources at Stony Brook. I've been a full-time staff member here for 7 years. I went to grad school here. If you're not sure where to get started, or you're just not sure if a resource exists, ask someone, walk into an office. We're here in the Union, room 106. We're like right by the doors, very easily and accessible, centrally located on campus. People such as Victoria and Val and many other pals staff our front desk. They're really pros when it comes to the university. If you're ever not sure if a resource exists or kind of where to get started, or you're a little overwhelmed with trying to figure out that part, just ask somebody at the university, and we're happy to help. These resources are here for you. If you guys aren't asking us questions, and we're not doing our job, so we want you to be successful. So whatever the resource is, definitely connect with somebody so we can get you connected to wherever the best place is for you. We did get a question about required workshops for orientation and accessing the schedule in SB Engaged. So no, you won't see the schedules available as of right now. If you're an international student joining us, you're going to have a full day program starting at about 8:39 a.m. on Thursday, January 20th. And then you'll have, for all students, international and domestic students, first year and transfer students, you will all have a full day program on Friday, as well as some fun stuff going on in the evening if you're available to join us. And then there'll be some stuff going on Saturday as well. So I would definitely recommend holding those dates. Your individual schedules are not yet available in SB Engage, but there will also be some fun stuff that you'll be able to view in there as well. What is your favorite campus tradition at Stony Brook?
I love Roth Regatta. For what it is, for those who don't know, it's a tradition that's been going on for over 30 years at Stony Brook. All clubs and orgs are encouraged to participate. You build a cardboard boat with your org, and you can only use cardboard and duct tape, and then maybe paint to just decorate it. And there's usually like a theme every year. So the last time we had a traditional Roth Regatta before the pandemic was spring of 2019. So I was a first year, and the theme was Dr. Seuss. So it was really fun. I stayed up all night with my hall council and building members, painting the boat and taping the boat, and then running to a final, and then, you know, still passing the final and then racing the boat. It was a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to it happening this year because it's been a while, obviously, because of COVID. And it's just, I just remember just being so amazed at how many people there were. Because there's not only like everyone participating, but there were like alumni coming back. I saw parents with like babies, and I'm very like into like sweet stuff like that. So I'm already thinking like, oh man, when I'm an alumni, I'm gonna come back and bring my family. And it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, and I actually live in Roth community where Roth Pond is, where all the boats get raced, and everyone's like, oh my God, the pond is so gross. But like, I don't know, it's just fun. And I am looking forward to the easy commute to Roth Regatta because I lived in H community, which is a bit of a walk. So we had to walk the boat all the way to the pond. So yeah, Roth Regatta is up there for me.
Nice. I have not yet attended Roth Regatta, being the year after y'all. I would say midnight breakfast. I'm not sure if that's like specific to Stony Brook, but like around finals week, I think like this semester it was the like Monday night, but they'll host like breakfast at midnight or close to midnight, and it's just great. Everybody's like worrying about finals, like stressed out about that. We're all like eating pancakes at 11 in our pajamas, like in our buildings, or you can also eat that East Side Dining.
Perfect. I will chime in. Roth Regatta is my favorite as a staff member. And since I've been working in this office for a few years now, we usually do have a boat as well. If our students are willing to build and run the boat, we actually collect supplies all year round for it, which is a lot of fun to see. It's also available on YouTube for anyone that hasn't heard about Roth Regatta. So you can definitely search up a previous Roth Regatta and take like a sneak peek at it. It's a lot of fun to see. All right.
Can we address some of the questions in the chat, Megan?
Yeah. So one of the questions is, what advice do you have for someone who has a job for about 25 hours a week and is also in school full time? Does anybody want to chime in here?
I relate to this a lot because, you know, I'm involved with student life, student leadership, and I also work because I got to put food on my plate and on my pet's plate. So I think communication is just really important. As soon as I know if something comes up or if I'm going to need coverage, I make sure to let my supervisor know. Also, don't be afraid, obviously, if it's impeding on academics, you don't want that to happen. But if you maybe need like an extension or just some additional time, at least reaching out to the professor, I think is still useful. Even if they say no, at least you're being proactive and not just sitting and waiting for a consequence to happen. So just like also keeping yourself organized. I use Google Calendar to see when I'm available. And then if I have any tasks, I write those down. So just knowing what your obligations are and how you could work around everything, I think is key. And you'll find just some supervisors or mentors or professors, they might be like more flexible than you think. Of course, don't take advantage of that, but definitely just like let everyone know what's going on.
Yeah, we want you to be successful here, you know, and don't necessarily wait. And if you are struggling to balance the two, especially if this is a new experience, I know the last year and a half to 2 years has been a balancing act of adjustment for virtual learning, in-person learning, and all different, you know, capacities of life changing from virtual to in-person. So this semester might be particularly different as well. I mean, even though you've been a college student before as a transfer student, it's a new school with a new kind of balance. Definitely don't wait until you're struggling to reach out for help. If you know that there are resources here, take advantage of them. We want you to be successful. Many students do work and go to school. Some work on campus, some work off campus. So you're definitely not alone in that boat. But if you do find that the semester is progressing and you are struggling and you could use some more resources, definitely reach out because they are here for you. They're part of your tuition. You've paid for them. Let us have the opportunity to help you be successful this semester. And then, as Val said, really just take your time to plan and kind of assess the scheduling and mapping things out. One of the other questions is, do we make our own schedules? Can somebody elaborate on that a little bit? Oh, did we freeze? No, I think we're good.
I'm not sure if the freshman transfer students are any different from the usual transfer students, Megan, but you'll get an email about what time and a Zoom link that you'll speak with an advisor, and they'll kind of walk you through what classes you should be taking and major requirements for you, and then you'll make your schedule right then.
So just so you know, there's two different offices. Well, two main offices, I should say, but there's multiple areas of advising. So if you're an engineering major, you might be getting connected with the engineering offices. If you're a first year coming in, even as a transfer student, you might be getting connected through our undergraduate college offices. And then our transfer students in general usually go through our ATAS office or our academic and transfer advising services office. So depending upon what area best fits you as a student being admitted to Stony Brook will depend kind of how you will get connected to in terms of your schedule. What I will say is that you should be checking your emails daily at this point, because anything that we need from you to be able to do our job, we're sending that type of stuff out as fast as we can. As soon as we get those reports and numbers, we're sending it out. And then the sooner you do what we need from you, then the sooner things like appointments and classes and other things can kind of get rolling. So hopefully that helps understand a little bit better the expectations there. You also have multiple advisors here. So you'll have kind of your general advisors. So our first year students have our undergraduate college advisors, but then our transfer students have, again, the ATAS team, academic and transfer advising services. But then you also have your major advisor. If you have a minor, you have a minor advisor. So just kind of while we're talking about advising and scheduling, just know that during the course of your time here, it is normal and typical to work with a few different advisors to get ready for graduation. Good questions. What advice do you have for family members? So for some of our students joining us, also know that families are invited to the session as well. So we don't know who's in the room right now, but what advice do you have for family members?
For family members, and again, of course, I'm speaking as a college student and not as a parent, but as the college student, I would encourage family members and supporters to trust their student. This, going to college might be new for some, or if you're a transfer, you're doing the whole like going to college thing again, but kind of just like let it happen, but also be ready in case we, are calling you at like 3 a.m. because we need to like know how to do some very menial like adult tasks. Just like be there for us, but also like let us do our thing, I guess, so to speak. I'm very close with my mom, and her dream would be for me to go to Queens College, which is 20 minutes from my house, but I compromised and went to Stony Brook, which is like about an hour. So I still see her frequently. And I'm the oldest, so I'm the first one to go to college, and both my parents commuted, so they don't really have that experience firsthand either of having lived on campus. So it was new for them. And I just, my mom kind of just had to get used to like what that kind of looks like from her end. And, she trusts me. I've earned her trust as a child. So, I make sure not to abuse that, and, just be supportive in whatever way your student needs it, whether it's like, can you, maybe help me out financially, or even like some academic things. Like I have friends whose parents maybe like, they're scientists or whatever, so they could like help out with homework, or just, my mom like doesn't know like know, what a residence hall association is, for example, and I'm like the vice president of that, but she's still like, yeah, that's great. Or, you know, I'm a psych major, she studied art. She's like, wow, that's still great. So just, you know, cheer on your student too.
Alrighty. Where are some good places to study on campus? So this could be for residential students or commuter students. There's a lot of places around campus, but what are some places around campus that you would recommend to students that are looking for an area to kind of settle into?
For residential students, a lot of your residential halls will have a quiet study area, usually in your basement level or ground level. Sometimes you also have lounges you can study at if you can't study in your own room or in your suite common room for whatever reason. And around campus, I love to study at the like library stacks area. It's kind of like you have to take the stairs up on the library, or anywhere which has Wi-Fi and an outlet.
One of my favorite spots is the Tabler Center and Tabler Community. That is a residential community, but anyone can show up there because I don't live in Tabler. So a lot of people like kind of know who I am on campus, and I go to Tabler and like I don't really know anyone usually, so I won't get distracted. I lived in an H community for a while, and that was like very far from Tabler. So I just knew I'd be in a setting where it's like, you know, I'm not going to see anyone and then get lost in like conversation. And also it's just really nice. Tabler community is beautiful. It's got this big grassy area. So when the weather gets nice, you could sit outside over the balcony, and it's just like peaceful. And like for me, like I like having some noise, but not like noise I need to be engaged in. So yeah, that's one of my favorite spots. I also see there's a question about living in H community, and I lived there for 3 years, so I'm kind of just gonna move on with answering that. I really liked it. So that is a first year only community. I lived there before that designation was made, so I was there for 3 years. And living in corridor style like H community, it's really good in the sense that you are very connected with everyone, because obviously people want to get out of the room. So everyone, more likely than not, you might find them in like the lounge or some other common space. I had a really good hall council. I lived in Langmuir College for 3 years, and our hall council was known for being like really wacky and weird. And we had like a bunch of traditions in our own community. So I think it's just really neat to be able to be close with a lot of people. Especially like when you're a first year or a new student, you're fresh and don't know anyone. So I really needed that my first year. I didn't know anyone really at Stony Brook. Coming in, no one from my high school really came to Stony Brook. So I'm very lucky in that sense that I was there, and that's why I kept coming back. And I met some of like my closest friends there, and people I'm just going to keep in my life for a while. So I definitely like it. People say it's far from everything. I don't think it's that far. I mean, now that I've switched communities, like I'm like, okay, maybe it's a little far when I go back to visit, but it's close to the student union, which could also be a good study spot. There usually is like music playing there, but it's not that loud. It's fairly close to, it's very close to Eastside Dining, so easy access to food, and it's also fairly close to Starbucks, so that's always nice, a nice little walk to get in.
Could you elaborate on what hall council is? You had mentioned it when you were telling your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So hall councilors are weekly meetings that each residence hall has on Tuesday nights, and it's made up of an executive board and also your residence hall director and your resident assistants also collaborate with that. And the hall council's main objective is to put on usually programs for the residence hall, and also if you have any initiatives as a building, you'd want to bring it to them. And it's just a good way to kind of just see everyone in the building, you know, once a week, just see what's going on. You know, the RAs will make announcements. If like room inspections are coming up, the residence hall director will like give everyone that reminder. I mean, sometimes there's like, you know, cheesy little games or icebreakers. Langmuir Hall Council, we had like a raffle every week, so there's this cool chance to win a prize. So I definitely recommend checking it out, even if you're a commuter. If you make friends with a resident and the guest policy allows it, I'm not sure what the state of the guest policy is right now, but you could definitely show up to your residents' friends hall council. I've had people who like do not live in my building show up, and it's just nice to just have that connection.
So there's definitely a lot of community for our residential students. Also for our commuter students, we have our commuter assistants. There's also commuter focused events, commuter association. So that same kind of community that our residential students have access to while living here, our commuter students also have access to as well. So I'd highly recommend attending the living on campus and commuting to campus programs. They are required for your orientation requirements, excuse me. But I would definitely recommend attending one of those sooner rather than later, because they'll be able to give you a lot more insight as well. All right, we have a question about the process of applying to study abroad. Do either one of you have experience with this program? No? Okay.
I know someone who applied. I didn't go, and this was like pre-COVID. I don't know what the state of things are now. That's definitely like a question to ask at like the study abroad office, and I think it even goes beyond that because I think it's like up to SUNY if we could send folks abroad. But I just know you need to apply, and you need recommenders, and when you study abroad, you can receive like class credit or elective credit depending on what kind of program. And we do have programs available like during the semester, so fall or spring. You just like wouldn't be on campus. So if you're living on campus, you would need to indicate you're maybe about to study abroad. If you were living on campus in the fall, for example, let the residence hall director know that you won't be here for the spring. You got to move out. We also offer sessions in the spring and the winter. Summer, winter. Definitely check out their website though.
Yeah, so I'm not sure the status of study abroad programs right now. I dropped 2 links in the chat for you. There's a study abroad is the first link, and the second link, NSC, is the National Student Exchange. So it's not exactly study abroad, it's more internal to the US, but it's another way if you're kind of looking to balance out your time at Stony Brook with another university and another aspect to your education and your involvement. Both of these are really great resources. I would recommend contacting the offices directly. I would imagine that a lot of the programs have had changes in the past 1.5 to 2 years. And depending upon if you have a certain location that you're looking to go to, really connecting with those advisors will be able to get you the best information to plan for. I would also recommend doing it sooner rather than later, because there is an application process. There is a timeline for all of this. So the more information you get earlier, the more likely you'll be able to make that happen. I just see another question.
It's about parking.
Yep.
Parking as a commuter, where do I park for going to class? And do I need to drive to my next class if it's back to back, or do I walk? That's a great question. So admittedly, the campus is more suitable for like walking from class to class. It'd be kind of difficult to drive because not every lecture hall necessarily has a parking lot. However, if you're a commuter and you're parking, first of all, no, it does not cost any money. You just need to get your car registered and get a commuter parking pass, which you could pick up from the parking services office in the 2nd floor of the Union. One of our most frequently asked questions, so remember that. If you want a parking pass to park by Kenneth P. Laval Stadium, that requires a wait list, and I believe there's a fee for that, but commuters typically park in our South P lot, which again is free, and it's a huge parking lot, and there is an express bus that comes very frequently to South P every 5 minutes, so it'll pick you up from there and then take you by the Student Activity Center, which is like the center of campus, and then each lecture hall for the most part is like pretty walkable. Like you could get to each one from within about 10 minutes. And since fall of 2020, we've actually expanded time in between classes because with the implementation of remote learning, some folks might need more time to set up for an in-person class after being online or vice versa. So you do have 30 minutes in between classes, even if they're back to back, they're still at least like a 30-minute gap. So you should have time. And it is, like I said, like a pretty walkable campus, although I am from New York City, so I'm just used to walking everywhere. Victoria, I don't know if you have any more to add about that.
All right, so I'm going to drop a campus map in the chat. For anybody that is interested in opening that up, you will see that there's a lot that's very centrally located, and then the residential communities are kind of centrally located as well. And then the commuter students typically park in what's called South P. So if you look at the far bottom of that map, you'll be able to see that, but there is buses that run. And I believe the app is called SB Transit. Is that correct? So there is an app if you're taking a bus around campus. So yes, a lot of the academic buildings are centrally located, but that doesn't mean it's located near your car. So if you download the SB Transit app, you'll be able to see that bus in live time, like those little blue dots kind of traveling around campus, and that can help you plan your time accordingly. Also, I recommend, especially the first week of classes, plan some extra time getting to campus. A lot of people are trying to figure out how to get here, what entrance to take to campus. There's only a few of those, there's not that many. But then also kind of figuring out the buses, figuring out where your classes are, figuring out when to take your meals. So definitely recommend building some extra time in earlier in your day to be able to get here and not be stressed as you're navigating the campus. One of the questions we have is, are there shuttles on campus to take you off campus?
Got this. Yes, there are shuttles which will take you off campus. So on the weekends, usually there are free like shopping buses will take you off campus. There's one which will take you to the mall nearby. They'll take you to different grocery stores nearby, but also the like Long Island Transit buses usually come here as well. During the regular school day, if you show your ID, you can get in. Like you'll have to pay money, like $2-ish, I think, depending on where you're going, but they'll still take you during the regular weekdays, but the weekends it's free if you have your ID.
I like the next question. I need to come to campus to pick up my parking permit. So since I don't have it yet, how would I park on campus till I go to the union? It's like a catch-22. So the union actually specifically has a metered lot right by the entrance, so you can pay to park there. I think since Megan dropped the parking map, you could also locate other metered lots. So like anyone could park there. You don't need a parking pass as long as you just pay however much it costs. All of the parking zones are enforced only from Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you were to come maybe like at 4, you could park somewhere that's maybe it's designated as like a residential lot, for example, that won't be enforced after that time. Or like the weekends is usually when like residents have like their off-campus friends come over because they could park in the lots. But for the union, the metered lot should be fine. I know also the stadium lot, that's also faculty parking or people with stadium passes. But again, if you go after 4, you could park there.
All right, thank you. Do we have any additional questions? We have some time. Or any other resources that we can share links to, we can easily do that as well. A question, what tips do you have to get to know your professors, but also your classmates?
This could just be me. Maybe not everyone's comfortable with this, but I just make a lot of stupid jokes. Especially like in a Zoom class, I think it's like really important because it's Zoom and sometimes like it's like a 200 people in a Zoom call and everyone's cameras are off. So I don't know. I like to have a sense of humor about it, and it kind of keeps me more engaged because I'm actually paying attention to what's going on. But if if jokes aren't your thing, just being engaged in class, especially if it's like a bigger class where the professor's not going to get to know everyone. If you participate a lot, they'll notice, or even like people who are in the class, they'll be like, oh wow, Victoria participates a lot. Maybe she could like help me study. Sometimes people take advantage of that. Obviously, like don't like give into that, but just trying to put yourself out there. And again, office hours, very useful, even if it's just like to, maybe not talk, maybe it could be to talk about whatever research your professor is interested in, or if they have any general advice that they might be able to offer you. Like if you're an undergrad and thinking about grad school, obviously these are people with PhDs, so they know a lot about that process. Yeah, Victoria, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, for my professors, my usual academic professors, I don't speak a lot to outside of like office hours, as you mentioned. I get closer to the professors I like research with or have like projects I have to do with. But with like students, office hours, yes, I go to my my grading TA's office hours all the time, especially before like homeworks are due, because since they're the ones grading your homeworks, they kind of have expectations they set for you, even if the expectation came from the professor. And if you're talking to them or if they give you the wrong answer and then you put it down and then they're grading it, then they're like, oh wait, I gave her that wrong answer, they'll probably mark you right because they gave you the wrong answer. How I made friends in classes, especially online, was I also went for office hours during like the first, like once the homework came out, I looked at the homework, I went to office hours, and then the other students who are there, they also care about their school usually. That's why they're at office hours so early. And I was like, y'all want to become friends and form a study group? And I am still friends with some of them till this day.
Thank you. All right, we have 2 more questions. When should we expect to get an email from our academic advisor to make our schedule? So this really comes down to how fast things like your deposit get put into place, how fast you're checking your emails and completing any requirements that they need. That will then kind of put you in the queue or the report for us to be able as staff to reach out to you and say, here's your date and time to work with us and build your schedule. If you've done all those things, hang tight for a few days. It does take time and they're not gonna just automatically meet with you the next day. There are hundreds of students coming in right now, so it kind of just puts you in the queue to be able to get connected to and get that scheduled. But you should be hearing from them soon. I mean, we are a few weeks away from classes being here and ready to get started, but you should be hearing from them soon as long as you have done everything that you're supposed to do. But definitely be checking your emails and taking action on that. I would also recommend becoming familiar with your Stony Brook email, but also the application email that you used, because at some point it will transition over to your Stony Brook email. So just make sure that you're checking your email actively. Another question, is there a curfew while living on campus?
There is no curfew if you're living on campus, but after a certain time, there will be like quiet hours. So you're not supposed to be like making a lot of noise, or the RA might come and knock on your door.
And if you're out kind of late and maybe you're walking from one community to another and it's dark and you're maybe just want someone to go with you, you could always call our residential safety program. They have a walk service. It's 63162 walk, and someone from their team can walk you from like wherever you need to go. Or maybe if you stayed on campus really late in the library, lost track of time, and then you need to get back to your car, but it's all the way in South P and the buses stop running, you can call 63162 ride for that kind of support. It's not like a rideshare service. It's like, again, if you have absolutely no way to get back to your car, because South P is like a good 2 miles away from like the main campus. So and you don't have to be a resident to utilize the residential safety program. They're there for like, because we have residential students, but if you're a commuter and you just parked your car all the way across campus and you just need like a walk or a ride, they can help you out.
Thank you. We have another question. Are the classes really hard? Stony Brook University has this type of reputation where it seems a little bit intimidating.
I think everything is very nuanced, and it depends on, what kind of learner you are, what kind of classes you're taking, what kind of folks you have in your class. Is it an online class or is it in person? What is your professor like? So yeah, I've definitely heard that like Stony Brook is like said to be like, the Ivy League of SUNYs. I've only ever attended Stony Brook, so it's not like I can make a fair comparison, but I've had classes that are harder than others, but to me, like statistics for me is like really hard because that's my own weakness. But I know some folks are like, what, statistics is easy? And I'm like, no, you don't understand, calculus is easier. So I think it's just about knowing yourself and what you can handle, and being humble with yourself in the sense that if you know like some sort of academic track or program is not for you, just like accepting that maybe you need to rethink that, and that's totally okay. And if things seem hard, again, we have so many resources that are available to you, such as office hours, tutoring, that you could reach out to if you feel like you need help.
All right. One thing I want to add in, and this is not advice that I've been given in the past, but it's advice that I've heard other staff give to students, is that if you came to Stony Brook and we didn't challenge you, you'd kind of be like, oh, that was easy, and what did I do this for? So it is something to think about, and that there's a good challenge there, but we're also here to support you in that challenge. We want you to be successful, and that resources do exist. So if something is challenging, take advantage of those resources. You're not the only one using them, I promise you that. We have 2 other questions. What time do the buses stop running?
11. Val's nodding, so it's 11.
Yeah, I think it's different if you're here for like summer or winter because there's like less people on campus, but during the semester it's 11.
There is also the Long Island Railroad on campus as well. So that's a different schedule that changes kind of seasonally. But in terms of accessing off-campus resources, that particular transportation changes seasonally also. As an older returning student, what are some things that I should focus on to get the best experience?
Speaking as a younger student, I can't empathize, but I imagine that we have a lot of resources that could be useful for you as a older student. We have our Association of Transfer Students, which is a club like just like directed towards like transfer students, because you have that shared experience, and I'd imagine like you might find some non-trads there and you could, you know, relate over that, and also just seeing how you can get involved on campus, because now I actually, one of my closest friends is a non-trad student. She also worked in new student programs for some time, and she works now, she's a grad student, she works in advising. So just still like, you know, taking advantage of like the resources we have and opportunities we have, and you know, if it's something you like, I still say go for it, because I think Stony Brook is still be a good place to grow.
I would also say if something you want to do is to get to know people, don't cut off yourself from like first years or students who are younger than you age wise. In my first semester, I was part of an intramural volleyball team, which consisted of like myself, who was a first year, transfer students who came like after army and other ages, so they were older than me, and people brought in their friends from grad school who were even older than us. And we were all like a great team, and we had a lot of fun in our fall semester. And you don't have to be the same age. Like you can go make friends around your age or find students like that. But if you're trying to make like friends or get to know more people, cutting yourself off based on what your grade standing is or how old you are, it's not going to help you.
Yeah, I would definitely say make connections. Make connections. Don't be afraid to dive in. Coming in this as a staff member now and continuing to work to support the student experience, and my career has been based in higher education. We're here for you, regardless of whatever age or how long you've been out of school, if there's been a long gap, or if you have children. We have many students that have children as well. I love when I see people and I'm like, can I help you? You know, and I don't know if they're a student or they're a staff member. I really have no idea. And I really try to never assume, because it could be anybody. But in terms of things that you could focus on to get the best experience, definitely make connections, connect to those resources, have conversations with staff members, connect with alumni, even alumni. And, you know, maybe you, I'm assuming here, I don't know, but maybe you've had a career already, or you've kind of started a career path. You know, there's ways that you can connect to others that maybe have a little more advice on that timeline. But definitely make connections, both in your classes, departments, resources, clubs, organizations, go to events. I wouldn't necessarily say there's anything you have to do differently, because everything here is for you just as much as anybody else. All right, so we do have a few minutes left. Does anybody else have any additional questions? In the meantime, we'll leave that chat box open and the Q&A open for another few minutes. Victoria and Val, any last minute advice that you have for our incoming students? Anything that we didn't get to cover yet that you really want to share?
I guess one point I'd want to drive home is, you know, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I know that sounds like really corny and cheesy, but I promise it at least worked for me. Even if you know, go to a club for just like 1 week and you decide it's not for me, at least you tried. Worst that can happen is you don't like it. And you know, now you know that about yourself. Like, maybe I'm not really into like this theater club, for example. Don't be afraid to ask for help, whether it's from professors or other peer mentors. For anyone who is a student here, you should all be assigned a peer assistant leader. If you haven't got one already, that will happen before classes start. Definitely utilize us as a resource. We're here for you. You know, we're all students here, and we know what it's like to be a student, and we're here to help you. So, you know, just don't be afraid to ask for help, or just, you know, any kind of support that you need in the moment.
Yeah, going off what Val said, definitely don't be afraid to ask for help. But also something I would add is coming in as a first year student, or just my first time in Stony Brook, sometimes I want to go to something, but I'd be too nervous to go on my own. I would say don't worry about showing up to anything alone. If it's like some really large event, you're like, oh, I'll look so sad if I go on my own, or I won't know what to do. You'll be really surprised. Like, I've gone to events on my own, and then I'll see somebody who's also on their own and be like, wait a second, I know you. like, you go to class with me, and then like that's how you connect with people. And then it'll happen again. We'll go to an event both on our own again. It's like, oh, you're here on your own too. Again, let's sit together and like do stuff.
All right, so thank you for the advice. Thank you for those that have joined us. I don't see any additional questions coming in at this time, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. If you do have any additional questions, you can feel free to reach out to us at our new student programs office, but also know that your PAL is connecting with you. We have Seawolf Connections. If you have not already done your Seawolf Connections, you should have had that scheduled by now. If you don't know what I'm talking about, email us at the new student programs office so that we can get you set up on the right track. But you should be hearing from your PAL. We're here to answer any questions that you have from now until through the start of classes, but primarily before classes start. We want to help you feel as prepared as possible. So thank you all. Stay warm, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you all in a few weeks. Bye, everyone.